What's the most awkward, negative, or plain crazy response you've gotten after performing a good deed? I was driving home from university one day, and I stopped for a red light. I looked around and caught eyes with an older gentleman in the car next to me, and we both snapped our glances forward as if we had caught each other looking at privets in the men's bathroom. I sheepishly looked back to the guy, and we caught eyes a second time. I waved. He laughed and waved back. Awesome. Why don't I do this more often? I spent a week waving at people randomly and being super friendly. It was 11 in the evening and I was walking back to my car in a friend's apartment complex. An older man walked by and I took a brief moment to greet him. "Good evening, sir." And he responded, "Oh, God, please don't hurt me." I was so taken aback by his response that all I could do was stare. He cried, "I have a family. They need me. Please, please, just let me go home." I told him to have a nice night, and I never talked to strangers ever again. Gave a homeless dude an extra sandwich. I got something on a 2-for-1 type deal, and he bitched that I didn't give him money and threw the sandwich all over. Whatever. When I was a kid, my mother and I spotted a lost dog running through the streets. We immediately stopped and got her into our car, taking her to our house in order to call the number on her tag. The owner showed up 8 hours later with a box of cookies as a thank you to us. Upon my mother opening the door and seeing my then overweight mom, the woman's face fell and she immediately said, "Well, clearly you won't be needing these." She then tucked the box into her purse and grabbed her dog. No thank you was ever said. This clueless guy on a cell phone went to step off the crowded sidewalk to cross the street, not noticing the massive double-decker bus headed our way. I grabbed his backpack he was wearing and pulled him back just as the bus came flying by, basically saving the dude's life. Everyone around me gasped, screamed, but as the crosswalk started flashing green for pedestrians, he just went on his way and crossed without ever looking at me or thanking me, just continued his convo on the phone. Ever fix someone's computer for them? Every problem that computer has for the rest of its life is your fault now. Raked and blew the leaves off a friend's yard because they were starting to blow onto her neighbor's recently cleaned and mowed immaculate yard. Said neighbor came out and screamed at me that she had just gotten her yard worked on and I had better not mess it up. I explained that I was doing a good deed for a friend that was mostly a benefit to her, the neighbor, but all I got was "I don't give a damn" for a reply. 2 years later, said neighbor's husband gets cancer and loses his income and they fall into financial trouble and have to lay off their lawn service and their lawn goes to crap. I took the opportunity to again do the right thing and started to maintain their yard and continue to this day for free. The gratitude on this lady's face when I see her is priceless. We never bring up what she did to me, but I know she remembers. I can still hear my late mother saying, "Kill him with kindness, Chris. Kill him with kindness." I was waiting in line to do a return at a department store. A little boy, probably about 3 or 4 years old, stood a bit away from the registers crying and calling for his mommy. I looked around trying to spot mommy but didn't see any adults paying attention to him. After about 5 minutes of this, I went and asked him, "Hey honey, are you okay? Let's see if the checkout lady can call your mom." I gestured for him to follow me. Didn't touch the kid. The cashier paged the mom, who came almost immediately and was thankful. After the mom left with the boy, the cashier and the 2 customers in front of me in line chatted about how worried they were that I might have been kidnapping him. I was standing right behind them. Edit. Also, I don't think I looked that sketchy. 20 years old at the time. Female, wearing a collared shirt and jeans. Fixed a customer's transmission for free because they had no cash. New kid, etc. It broke a month outside of the 12-month warranty and we fixed it for free again. Their response was to leave horrible ratings for our business all over the web that are still up today. When I was in Cub Scouts I offered to sell raffle tickets around my neighborhood to raise money for charity. I knocked on a neighbor's door and she lectured me on how gambling was immoral. Even her husband got involved. I was 8 at the time. This didn't happen to me. But many years ago my oldest sister was exiting a supermarket when an elderly, disabled woman in a wheelchair came rolling in through the exit gate. Trying to be considerate for this obviously impaired woman, my sister opened the gate for her so she could roll on in. The woman looked at my sister and said, "I don't need help from no Jap." My sister said she just walked straight to her car and started crying. Oh yeah, she's not even Japanese. It didn't happen to me, but a friend of mine. He was walking down the street when the lady in front of him dropped her wallet unknowingly. He picked it up, ran to catch up with her, and said, "Mom, you dropped your wallet back there." She looked at him and asked, "Did you take anything out of it?" My friend, who was still holding the wallet, flung it to the other side of the street and kept walking. Thankfully, there are laws in Canada that prevent any sort of legal recourse from this, but I absolutely hate it when people, and their families, who have just benefited from the help of a first responder, paramedic, security guard, etc., complain about the service they've just received and threaten to sue. I actually witnessed a rescue where a woman was pulled feet first out of a raging river. The first thing she said when they pulled her to the shore, "You almost broke my leg, idiot." I was bartending a private event and found a purse that someone had left on the bar, so I tucked it away behind the register. Towards the end I heard a lady complaining about it being stolen, and how there was a lot of cash and valuables in it. I then returned it. She was lying about the cash. She tried to write me a check for a reward, which I declined, asking only that she someday pay the good deed forward. The next day she went on Yelp and wrote this huge review claiming that the bartender attempted to steal her purse, and the only reason she got it back was because of how vocal she was about it, and that I got scared. I was waiting at a bus stop, and this sweet looking little old lady was having trouble getting down the curb to cross the road, so I helped her cross the road. I wish her a pleasant day, to which she replies, "Fucking foreigners, get out of my country, thanks." I was walking with my tour group through Montmartre when I noticed that a bee was flying around and then landed in the hair of the woman in front of me. I calmly tapped her shoulder and said, "Mom, there is a bee in your hair." She looked at me with a blank stare and shook her head. Language barrier. So I thought for a second and then circled my hand around my head while making the BZZZZZZ sound. She immediately started panicking, yelling and swatting her head. Needless to say, the bee stung her and then she looked at me like I had planted a veg with her. Looking back, I probably shouldn't have said anything, but I was just trying to be helpful. I used to work for a company that set up tents for weddings. This Bridezilla made us move the tent we already had set up. Since the customer always gets their way, we did. She promised she'd buy us pizza and beer for staying longer to make her happy. We all agreed. Almost 5 hours later we finished with no pizza or beer. We went up to her to get the contracts signed and she said, "I forgot I promised you refreshments. Here you go." She bent down and gave us the garden hose. Maybe not a good deed because it was my job, but I saved this little kid one time at the pool I worked at. The water was only 4 feet deep, but he obviously couldn't touch the bottom or swim well at all. Anyway, I hopped in and grabbed him. Said the lifeguard lines like, "Hey, I got you, but you're okay. We're gonna go to the side now." Poor kid was crying like crazy. My manager came over and was like, "Great job, Max." Then his mom came over and just basically was like, "He's okay. Alright, come on," and walked away. Not even a thank you to me or the manager for saving her son. Outside a gas station in Mississippi, a guy asked me for 12 cents. I fished out a quarter, then he said, "I only need 12 cents. Then he walked away without taking the quarter. I tried to give a homeless woman on the subway some bagels. She was begging people for money for food. When I tried to give them to her, she yelled in my face, "I want KFC." They were raisin bagels. I was in a part of the Bronx that is, well, ghetto. I'm inspecting a building when all of a sudden, out of a townhouse comes this little girl, no older than 2. She starts walking straight for the street. I freak out. I go grab her and go back to the townhouse to hand her over to her mother. After telling mom the story, she just says, "Okay." I'm like, "Ma'am, your 2-year-old was walking straight for the street. I don't think you get what that means." She says, "Well, WTF, you want offensive work for a black person? A medal? Go frick yourself." Needless to say, child services were called. Driving to work on a snowy morning, making sure to be very careful, as conditions are bad. I'm at a traffic light, and when it turns green, I begin to go. A middle-aged man suddenly comes literally sprinting down the sidewalk and bursts into the road in front of my car. I slam on the brakes, tires squeal. Unfortunately I stop in plenty of time, as he's still a few feet from the hood of my car. He's a bit stunned I guess, and just stands there in the road as we stare at each other for a second, and then his face twists up and he gives me the middle finger, straight to my face for a good solid 2 or 3 seconds, then he storms off. I was too flabbergasted to even process it at the time. Man jumps into traffic. I avoid hitting him, and he flips me off. To this day I don't know what to make of it. TLDR, man gives me the finger after he jumps into traffic and I do not hit him. I once changed a tire for a lady on the side of a busy highway. I used my own tools, and when I was finished I lowered the car back down, put the flat tire in the trunk, and shut the lid. As soon as the trunk lid went down she took off without a word or even a wave. I didn't expect anything from her, but she could have at least said thank you. I had a girl at a bar give me her drink to hold while she went to the bathroom. When she got back I went to hand it back to her and she said, "You take a sip first." I finished the entire drink and walked away. Back when I was 8 or 9, me and my family went to a shopping mall in Saudi Arabia. Since it was shopping season, all the shopping carts were taken. Luckily, or unluckily, we parked close to this older man struggling to get his groceries in the back of his Jeep. I decided to help him out with the groceries and take the cart from him. Win-win, right? Wrong. As I approach him and offer to help him, that cranky old coot freaked out and raised his walking stick at me telling me to go away. I raised my hands up in defense and backed away slowly.